$800. That is all he had. 800 borrowed dollars, a freezing Detroit basement, and a dream so big, most people laughed at him. But what Berry Gordy built with that money did not just change music, it changed America. This is the story of Motown Records, and trust me, you are not ready for what really happened inside those walls. Number 1, the man before the music. Berry Gordy's early life. Before there was Motown, there was a boy from Detroit who could not sit still. Berry Gordy Jr. was born on November 28, 1929, the 7th of 8 children in a hard-working black family on the east side of Detroit. His father, Berry Gordy Sr., was a plasterer, a grocer, a man who believed in building something with your hands. His mother, Bertha, was the heart of the household. Together they planted one idea deep inside every one of their children. You are not limited by where you come from. Made my heart feel with joy. Young Berry absorbed that lesson, but he had his own restless energy. He dropped out of high school to pursue boxing. And not just backyard sparring either. He was good. He turned professional, fighting as a featherweight, racking up wins, chasing the dream of becoming a champion. But the ring could not hold him forever. I still recall all those dreams we shared. When the Korean War called, Gordy answered. He served from 1951 to 1953, and when he came back to Detroit, something had shifted inside him. I cried so many tears. He enrolled in a GED program, passed, and then turned to the one thing that had always made his heart race faster than any punch ever had: music. I knew the day we started that we were. He opened a jazz record shop called the 3D Record Mart. He stocked it with the music he loved, and it failed completely. Shut down in less than 2 years because, as Gordy later admitted, the neighborhood wanted rhythm and blues, not jazz. Most people would have quit. Berry Gordy took notes. He went to work on the Ford assembly line at the Lincoln Mercury plant, screwing in car seats for $3 a day. But even on that line, something was happening in his mind. And he watched how a raw chassis moved from station to station, each worker adding one precise piece, until a finished car rolled out the other end. He did not know it yet, but he was watching the blueprint for the greatest hit-making machine in music history. The assembly line taught him something nobody could teach in a classroom. Quality control is everything. Every piece matters. And the product that comes out the other end has to be perfect. Berry Gordy was not just dreaming of making records, he was designing a system, and the world had no idea what was coming. Number 2, Jackie Wilson, the voice that started it all. His name was Jackie Wilson, and before Berry Gordy ever opened the doors of Motown, it was Jackie Wilson who proved to him that a song written from the gut could shake the whole country. Jackie Wilson grew up on the same streets as Gordy, the rough east side of Detroit, where survival was not guaranteed and talent was the only currency that mattered. He had a voice that stopped rooms cold, a 4-octave range, a stage presence so electric that audiences literally fainted at his performances. Elvis Presley reportedly called Jackie Wilson the greatest entertainer alive. Gordy was working as a songwriter in the mid-1950s and got the opportunity to pitch songs to Jackie's manager. He brought in compositions with tight hooks and emotional structure, and Jackie recorded them. Reet Petite in 1957, Then to Be Loved, Then Lonely Teardrops, which climbed all the way to #1 on the R&B charts in 1958.
My heart is crying, crying.
These were Gordy's songs, Jackie's voice, and the money was going everywhere except to the man who wrote them. Gordy did not resent Jackie for that. He respected him enormously.
Lonely teardrops. My beauty.
But watching Jackie Wilson perform on television and hearing the label executives take their cut while he got a small writer's check lit something fierce inside Berry Gordy. He made a decision right then. He would never again build someone else's empire with his music. Jackie Wilson never signed with Motown. He was already locked in with Brunswick Records. But his success was the proof of concept that Gordy needed. He saw what a great black artist with great songs could do when the machinery was right, and he decided to build his own machinery.
Just say you will.
Jackie Wilson spent the rest of his career as one of the most electrifying performers in American music.
Say you will.
His influence runs through James Brown, Michael Jackson, and nearly every R&B entertainer who came after him. And in a very real way, without Jackie Wilson, there is no Motown. Because without watching Jackie succeed, Berry Gordy might never have understood just how powerful the formula could be.
Quick question, are you subscribed? If not, you're part of the 99% who watch and disappear. Here's the problem. YouTube won't show you our next video unless you subscribe. So if you want more untold music stories like this, hit that button right now. 2 seconds. Do it before you forget.
Number 3, Smokey Robinson, the poet who built the foundation.
People can change, they always do.
There is one name that belongs in every single conversation about Motown's origins. One person who was there from the very first conversation about what Motown could be.
I don't care what they say.
His name is Smokey Robinson, and without him, the whole empire might have looked completely different.
No, I don't care what they think. If you
William Smokey Robinson Jr. was born in Detroit in 1940 and grew up in the North End neighborhood, not far from where Gordy would eventually open Hitsville.
I don't care if they start to avoid me.
He formed a vocal group called the Matadors while still in high school, and they were performing around Detroit by the late 1950s when a mutual contact connected them to Berry Gordy.
For sure is really, really.
Gordy met with the group, listened to them perform, and immediately recognized Smokey's talent, not just as a singer, but as a songwriter. At 19 years old, Smokey was already writing lyrics with a sophistication that most professional writers twice his age could not match. Gordy sat with him after their first meeting and talked for hours about music, about business, about what it could mean to own your art. By the end of that conversation, the seeds of Motown were planted. Smokey famously told Gordy, "Stop writing for other people and start your own label." Gordy listened. Smokey was one of the very first people signed to what would become Motown, and the Miracles were one of the cornerstone acts from day one.
I don't care what they think.
In 1960, Shop Around became Motown's first million-selling single, hitting #1 on the R&B charts. But Smokey was doing far more than recording his own music. He was writing and producing hits for other Motown artists. My Girl for the Temptations, My Guy for Mary Wells. Ain't That Peculiar for Marvin Gaye. He had a gift for writing vulnerability in a way that felt universal, and Gordy trusted him with the most important artists on the roster. Berry Gordy eventually named Smokey Robinson Vice President of Motown. Not a ceremonial title, a real one. Smokey was in the building, in the sessions, in the strategy meetings.
And my relations.
He was not just a star, he was a co-architect of the whole sound. And that is a legacy that no hit single can fully contain.
Don't care what they do.
Number 4, The Temptations, 5 voices, 1 unstoppable force. Berry Gordy had a gift for seeing what an artist could become before the artist fully understood it themselves. And nowhere was that gift more evident than with the group that would become the most celebrated male vocal ensemble in Motown history, The Temptations. The story of how Gordy found them is actually the story of 2 groups becoming one. Otis Williams and his group The Distance had been performing around Detroit in the late 1950s. At the same time, Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams were leading a group called The Primes. The 2 groups merged in 1960 to form a 5-piece called the Elgins. Melvin Franklin and a rotating 5th member completed the lineup before David Ruffin eventually locked in as the 5th voice. They auditioned for Motown in 1961, and Gordy saw potential but was not yet fully sold. He signed them to a developmental deal, which at Motown meant they entered the artist development program, the finishing school, the choreography sessions, the vocal coaching, everything designed to turn raw talent into something bulletproof. For 2 years, they recorded and released singles that barely registered on the charts. Most labels would have dropped them. Gordy held on. He assigned Smokey Robinson to work with them, and in 1964, Smokey wrote The Way You Do the Things You Do, which finally cracked the top 12. Then a year later, he handed them a song called My Girl. It went to number 1. The Temptations were born. What followed was one of the most extraordinary runs in pop music. With David Ruffin out front on ballads and Eddie Kendricks soaring on falsetto leads, they scored massive hit after massive hit. Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Beauty Is Only Skin Deep, I Wish It Would Rain. Papa Was a Rollin' Stone. Their synchronized choreography, engineered by Charlie Atkins, became one of the defining visual images of the entire decade. Gordy's patience with the Temptations was a masterclass in artist development. He did not give up when the early records did not move. He invested time, resources, and some of his best writers into shaping them. And what came out the other side changed music forever. Number 5, Marvin Gaye. The artist who refused the formula. Not everyone at Motown was happy just following Berry Gordy's playbook, and the one who pushed back hardest and loudest and most beautifully was Marvin Gaye. Marvin Pence Gaye Jr. was born in Washington, D.C. in 1939 and came to Detroit as a young man trying to find his footing in the music industry. Harvey Fuqua of the doo-wop group. The Moonglows took Marvin under his wing in the late 1950s, and it was through that connection that he was introduced to Berry Gordy. Gordy and Fuqua became business partners, and Marvin came along in the deal. He signed with Motown in 1961, initially working as a session drummer before Gordy recognized that the voice coming out of this young man was something extraordinary. He added the E to Gay to become Gay, and partly as a tribute to Sam Cooke, and partly because he was building a new identity from scratch. His early Motown recordings were polished and radio-ready. Stubborn kind of fellow, pride and joy, how sweet it is.
That's good for me whenever blue teardrops.
Great songs. But Gordy wanted to keep Marvin in a comfortable commercial lane. Ballads, duets, safe music.
Good for me, makes me feel so fine.
Marvin had something entirely different burning inside him. By the late 1960s, America was tearing itself apart. The Vietnam War.
My body and mind, so we've been making it, honey.
The assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Kennedy. Race riots in Detroit and across the country.
Healing. Get up, get up, get up, get up.
Marvin Gaye was watching all of it, and he could not keep singing about dancing and heartbreak while the world was on fire.
Love mine, and it's good for us. Sexual.
He went to Gordy and said he wanted to make a concept album about what was happening in America. Social commentary, real pain, real questions. And Gordy pushed back hard. He did not think message music would sell. He and Marvin argued repeatedly, but eventually Gordy relented. In 1971, Marvin Gaye released What's Going On.
Sexual healing is something.
From the opening seconds, it was clear this was not a Motown record in the traditional sense. It was a piece of art. It went to number 2 on the pop charts and number 1 on the R&B charts.
I need some loving.
Rolling Stone would later rank it the greatest album ever made. Marvin Gaye proved something nobody at Motown had been willing to say out loud before.
Do it right.
The artist's vision, when it is true and when it is deep, is not a liability. It is the whole point. Number 6, Stevie Wonder, the blind genius who became unstoppable. If Marvin Gaye proved that Motown artists could demand creative freedom and win, Stevie Wonder proved they could rewrite the rules entirely and still be the biggest act on the planet. Steveland Hardaway Morris was born 6 weeks premature in 1950 in Saginaw, Michigan. Excess oxygen in his incubator left him blind shortly after birth. He grew up in Detroit, taught himself piano, harmonica, and drums before he was 10 years old, and sang with a voice that sounded ancient and innocent at the same time. The way Gordy found him is one of the great discovery stories in music history.
Not even time for birds to fly.
When Stevie was just 10 years old, his friend Gerald White, whose brother Ronnie White was a member of the Miracles, arranged for him to audition at Motown. And Ronnie White heard the boy play and sing in a stairwell and was so overwhelmed that he personally drove him to Berry Gordy's office and refused to leave until Gordy listened. Gordy listened for about 30 seconds, then he signed him on the spot. They called him Little Stevie Wonder, and in 1963, at just 13 years old, he scored his first #1 hit with a live recording called Fingertips Part 2. He became the youngest artist ever to top the Billboard Hot 100. Through the 1960s, Stevie had consistent hits: Uptight, I Was Made to Love Her, For Once in My Life, My Cherie Amour. But when his contract expired in 1971, he did what most people thought was career suicide.
No wedding Saturday.
He renegotiated for total creative control. He would own his masters. He would produce himself. He would play nearly every instrument. And Motown agreed because they could not afford to lose him. What followed is called Stevie Wonder's classic period. Between 1972 and 1976, he released 5 consecutive albums, each one a complete world. Music of My Mind, Talking Book, Inner Visions, Fulfillingness, First Finale, and Songs in the Key of Life, which won 4 Grammys, including Album of the Year, and is still considered one of the greatest records ever made by any artist in any genre. Stevie Wonder did not just grow up at Motown, he transformed it. Number 7, Diana Ross and the Supremes, the crown jewels of Motown. If you had to pick one act that defined Motown to the world in the 1960s, one group that put the label's name on every radio station and every television stage in America, it would be the Supremes. And at the center of that group was a woman Berry Gordy believed in more than almost anyone else he ever signed. Diana Ross grew up in the Brewster Douglas housing projects in Detroit, not far from Hitsville, USA. She formed a vocal group as a teenager with her friends Mary Wilson, Florence Ballard, and Betty McGlown, and they called themselves the Primettes. They began hanging around Motown constantly in 1960, showing up uninvited to sessions, begging for an audition. Gordy kept turning them away. He thought they were too young and too rough around the edges. And they kept coming back. Eventually, Gordy agreed to sign them on one condition: finish high school first. They did. In 1961, the Primettes signed with Motown and became the Supremes. Their first several singles failed to chart. They were nicknamed the No-Hit Supremes in the Motown hallways, not kindly. But Gordy saw something specific in Diana Ross, a quality in her voice and her presence that he believed could cross every line in America if developed correctly. He assigned Holland Dozier Holland to produce them and threw the full weight of the artist development program behind them. In 1964, Where Did Our Love Go went to number 1. Then Baby Love. Then Come See About Me. Then Stop in the Name of Love. I made a big mistake, honey. By 1969, the Supremes had scored 12 number 1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. 12 in 5 years, and no other Motown act matched that record. I made a big mistake, honey. Diana Ross eventually went solo in 1970, but the impact she and the Supremes had on Motown and on American culture was permanent. They were the proof that Berry Gordy's vision was not just possible, it was inevitable. Number 8, The Four Tops, Loyalty, Power, and the voice of Levi Stubbs.
Reach out for me. Reach out for me.
While other Motown acts came and went, and some left for bigger deals and brighter lights, one group stayed. Through every shift in sound, every change in direction, every decade that passed, the Four Tops never left. And that loyalty, combined with one of the most powerful lead voices in the history of popular music, made them one of the most enduring acts Motown ever produced. The group that would become the Four Tops formed in Detroit in 1953. Levi Stubbs, Abdul Duke Fakir, Lawrence Payton, and Ronaldo Obi Benson came together as teenagers and began performing locally. They recorded for various small labels throughout the late 1950s with limited success. By the early 1960s, they had been performing together for nearly a decade and were still looking for the break that would change everything. Berry Gordy signed them to Motown in 1963. The story goes that he did not need much convincing once he heard Levi Stubbs sing.
When you feel lost and about to
Stubbs had a voice that did not ask for your attention. It commanded it. Raw, urgent, emotionally unguarded in a way that few voices ever achieve. Gordy knew exactly what to do with that instrument. He handed them to Holland Dozier Holland, who proceeded to write some of the most urgent, dramatic pop songs ever recorded specifically around the power of Levi's voice.
I can tell the way you hang your head.
Baby, I Need Your Loving in 1964. I Can't Help Myself, Sugar Pie Honey Bunch in 1965, which hit #1. It's the same old song, Reach Out, I'll Be There, which many consider the greatest moment in the entire Motown catalogue. A towering declaration of love and devotion that still sounds like it could break through a wall. What made the Four Tops different from so many other acts was their stability. The same four men, together for decades. No lineup changes, no bitter splits, no public feuds. Levi Stubbs out front, the other three locked in behind him, harmonizing with a precision built from 20 years of singing together. In a label full of extraordinary talent, the Four Tops were proof that reliability and longevity could be just as powerful as any overnight sensation. Number 9, Lionel Richie, Motown's last superstar of the era. As the 1970s gave way to the 1980s, Motown needed a face for a new decade. What arrived from Tuskegee, Alabama, was a voice that could make every person in a stadium feel like they were the only one in the room.
Two hearts that beat.
Lionel Brockman Richie Jr. did not come to Motown as a solo act. He arrived as the frontman and lead songwriter of the Commodores, a funk and soul group that formed at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama in the late 1960s.
I know I found in you.
The group was discovered in a way that sounds almost too good to be true.
Want to share all my love.
They were hired as the opening act for the Jackson 5 in 1971, completely by accident, after another group dropped out of the tour at the last minute. Motown executives saw them on that tour and were immediately interested.
No one else will do.
Gordy signed the Commodores in 1972, and he recognized immediately that Lionel Richie was the creative engine of the group.
I can't resist your
Both as a writer and as a performer, and began positioning them for crossover success.
charms.
Through the mid-1970s, the Commodores built a devoted following with high-energy funk tracks like Brick House and Slippery When Wet. But it was when Richie stepped into ballad territory that something different happened. Easy in 1977, Three Times a Lady in 1978.
I'll be a fool for.
Still in 1979, each one landing on pop stations, adult contemporary stations, even country stations. He was reaching everywhere at once. By 1981, Richie had stepped into a full solo career. His album Can't Slow Down in 1983 became one of the best-selling albums of the entire decade, all night long. Hello.
I'll give it all to you.
Running with the Night. It spent more than 78 weeks on the Billboard 200 and won the Grammy for Album of the Year in 1985.
My love.
Then Richie co-wrote We Are the World alongside Michael Jackson, raising over $63 million for African famine relief. Gordy had found him on a last-minute tour booking, and that accident turned into one of the biggest careers Motown ever produced. Number 10, Rick James, the funk rebel who lit Motown on fire.
Rick, I really like the taste of every time.
By the late 1970s, Motown needed an infusion of something raw, something dangerous, something that the polished world of Hitsville had never quite allowed itself to fully embrace.
Everybody sang, super freak, super freak.
It found exactly that in a man from Buffalo, New York, who had been living on the edge of the music industry for years before Berry Gordy finally took a chance on him.
Once you get her off the street, oh girl.
James Ambrose Johnson Jr. came into the world in 1948 in Buffalo, grew up in a family full of music and chaos, and began performing in bands as a teenager. He had a troubled early history, including a stint in the Naval Reserve that ended badly, and years of trying to break into the music business in Toronto and Los Angeles with little to show for it.
In a limousine.
By the late 1970s, he was recording demos and shopping them everywhere, and he got a meeting with Berry Gordy.
Proud to her, she says. Room 740.
He performed a song called You and I, and Gordy, who had by that point spent 20 years developing artists toward a certain kind of crossover polish, heard something completely different and made the call to sign him.
Pretty wild now. Girl's a super freak. The kind of girl.
Gordy gave him creative latitude that most Motown artists had to fight for.
Read about. That girl is pretty king.
Rick James used that latitude to ignite. He recorded his debut album, Come Get It, in 1978.
She's a very king.
It went platinum, then Bustin' Out of L7, then Street Songs in 1981, which contained the two biggest hits of his career, Give It To Me Baby and Super Freak.
My favorite. When I make my move to her room.
Super Freak became one of the most recognizable funk records ever made and later formed the backbone of MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This, earning Rick James one of the most sampled credits in music history.
It's the right time. She's never hard to please.
A Rick James brought to Motown something it had rarely allowed itself: unfiltered funk, sexuality, and street energy that pushed against every polished boundary Gordy had spent decades building.
Everybody sing.
The tension between those two sensibilities, Gordy's discipline and James's rebellion, produced music that burned.
It's all right. That girl's all right.
It was a wild, chaotic, brilliant chapter in the Motown story, and it proved that even at the end of an era, Berry Gordy still had the instinct to recognize what the moment needed.
Blow, Danny.
Number 11, the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson. The last great discovery. There is a moment in the Motown story that stops every conversation cold. A moment so undeniable, so electric, that even Berry Gordy, a man who had seen extraordinary talent walk through his doors for a decade, had to stop and stare. That moment had a name, and that name was Michael Jackson. The Jackson 5 came from Gary, Indiana, a steel town 30 miles south of Chicago, where the air smelled like the mills and the odds against making it out were steep. Joe Jackson, the father, trained his 5 sons with a relentlessness that would later become controversial, but in those early years produced something undeniable. Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon and Michael were performing at talent shows and local clubs, while most kids their age were still learning to ride bikes. The path to Motown has been told different ways. Diana Ross has said she discovered them. Gladys Knight has said she brought them to Gordy first. Bobby Taylor of Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers has also been credited. What is certain is that by 1968, they had been seen by enough people inside the Motown orbit that an audition with Berry Gordy was arranged. Gordy watched them perform in his living room. Michael was 10 years old, and by the end of that audition, Gordy had already made up his mind. He signed them in 1969 and launched their first single, I Want You Back, in October of that year. It went to #1, then ABC, then The Love You Save, then I'll Be There. 4 consecutive #1 singles straight out of the gate. It had never been done before in the history of pop music and has rarely been matched since. What Motown gave the Jackson 5 was the full machine. The marketing, the television appearances, the image crafting, the artist development. And for a few years it worked perfectly. But by 1975, tensions over creative control led the group to leave Motown for Epic Records. Jermaine stayed behind, having married Gordy's daughter Hazel. What came next, Michael Jackson's career on Epic, Thriller, the best-selling album in human history, belongs to another chapter. But the foundation, the stage presence, the vocal instinct, the understanding of performance at the highest level, all of it was built inside Hitsville, USA. Gordy found a 10-year-old boy in Gary, Indiana, and recognized something the rest of the world would spend the next 50 years trying to fully understand. That is what Motown was. That is what Gordy did. And that is a legacy no sale, no corporate transaction, and no passage of time will ever take away.